Help me hit 1,000 subscribers because these are the kinds of conversations that deserve to keep going. The kind that don't just give you a list of rules to follow, but actually sit with you for a while and help you think more clearly about your own life. If that matters to you, then stay here with me today. Have you ever been sitting at a nice restaurant or walking through a park and noticed a couple where one person is clearly much older than the other? Maybe there is a 20-year gap between them, maybe even more. Before you even hear them speak or learn anything about who they are as people, do you notice something happening inside you? A small flicker of judgment? We have to be honest with ourselves about this because many of us do feel it. We feel it not because we are bad people, but because a lot of the loudest opinions we carry around didn't actually come from knowing anyone or understanding anything. They came from somewhere else entirely. They came from fear. There is a quiet, deep down kind of fear that lives in many of us. A fear that something which breaks the normal rules might actually work out just fine. It is genuinely unsettling to consider that happiness might be found in places we were told never to look. If you have ever loved someone who is much younger or much older than you, you already know a particular kind of pain. And what is interesting is that the pain usually doesn't come from the relationship itself, not at first anyway. It doesn't come from the person you love. It comes from the overwhelming certainty that everyone around you seems to have about your future. Their confidence that it cannot last, that something must be wrong, that one of you must have some hidden motive. All of that certainty starts to feel like a weight you carry everywhere you go. I want you to picture a man sitting across from me. He is in his late 40s, calm, measured, the kind of person who doesn't need to raise his voice to be heard. He has done well for himself by most measures, but his hands won't stay still. He keeps rubbing the spot on his finger where a wedding ring might one day sit. He isn't married yet. He is thinking about her. She is 26 years old, sharp and curious, someone who challenges him intellectually in ways that haven't happened in years. She is fully capable of standing on her own 2 feet. But he didn't come to me asking how to make her love him. He came asking a much quieter and more painful question. He asked me, "Am I ruining her future?" That question stayed with me for a long time because it reveals something that most people never say out loud. Many men are far less afraid of being rejected than they are afraid of being the reason someone they love gets hurt. People on the outside assume that an older man pursuing a younger woman must be chasing his youth back, running from responsibility, or acting out some kind of fantasy. But the truth, at least in the healthiest versions of these relationships, is far more complicated and far more human than that. In most of the real cases I have encountered, it didn't start with anyone going out looking for a particular age. It started with 2 people who felt genuinely understood by each other. And that feeling, real understanding between 2 people, does not care about birth certificates. You might have experienced something like this yourself. You meet someone your exact age. On paper, everything lines up perfectly. You share the same cultural references, the same general timeline of life experiences, the same broad worldview. There is an attraction there, but every time you spend time together, it feels a little like watching a film you have already seen. You can predict what they are going to say. Nothing stretches your thinking. Nothing surprises you. Then one day, someone comes into your life who makes no logical sense on paper. The age difference is obvious and visible. Anyone who sees you together notices it immediately. But after 20 minutes of real conversation, neither of you is thinking about it anymore. This doesn't mean you have found your perfect person. It doesn't mean age is irrelevant. Of course it matters. The stage of life you are in matters enormously. Your goals, your energy levels, your relationship with your own family and community, all of these things are real. Pretending otherwise would be foolish. But here is the question that almost never gets asked. Why do some couples who are the exact same age slowly become strangers to each other, while some couples separated by decades seem to grow closer with every passing year? That question doesn't have a simple answer, and anyone who gives you one too quickly is probably not telling you the whole truth. Deep connection between human beings is not a math problem. People do not form lasting bonds because of matching numbers on a calendar. They form them because they feel emotionally safe with each other. Think about the last time you were truly relaxed around another person. Not entertained, not performing, not trying to say the right things or present the best version of yourself. Actually relaxed. Where silence wasn't awkward, where you didn't have to filter every word. That feeling is far rarer than most people admit. When people find it, they often assume it was just luck or chemistry. But it isn't random. There is a real reason for it, and it has almost nothing to do with age. After years of observing and talking with people about their relationships, one thing becomes very clear. How old you are on the inside is not always the same as how many birthdays you have had. There are 30-year-olds who seem utterly exhausted by life, as though they have already seen everything and want no more of it. And there are 60-year-olds who are so genuinely curious and alive that they seem younger than anyone else in the room. Because maturity isn't a number, it's how a person handles loss. It's how they behave in conflict. It's how they carry their responsibilities alongside their joy. Now, before anything else, something needs to be said plainly. No relationship is healthy simply because of an age gap, and no relationship is unhealthy simply because of one either. For any bond between two people to be genuinely good, there must be mutual respect, genuine freedom, and a real choice made by both people without pressure or manipulation. Without those foundations, nothing else matters. But when those things are present, something interesting begins to happen. The conversation stops being about numbers. It starts being about something harder to name. Something like why this person feels like home when the rest of the world insists they shouldn't. Here is where our thinking often goes wrong. From the outside, a relationship can look deeply strange. From the inside, it often just feels normal, not magical, not like a fantasy, just peaceful. And peaceful can actually be the most disorienting thing of all, because so many of us were raised to believe that love should feel dramatic and urgent and a little bit anxious. So when you meet someone who simply makes you feel safe, your own brain starts questioning it. You wonder why it feels so different. You start to distrust the calm. The thing that actually keeps people together for decades is quiet. It isn't the loud chemistry of early attraction. It is the feeling that you do not have to defend yourself every single moment you are with this person. One man once told me that when he was with the woman he loved, he stopped trying to be impressive. He didn't say he felt more successful or more attractive. He just said he stopped performing. For a man, saying that is significant. From the time boys are small, they are often taught that their worth comes from what they can achieve, what they can win, what they can provide. So they perform constantly. At work, with friends, in relationships, they become the version of themselves they believe everyone else needs to see. After enough years of that, they lose track of who they actually are underneath it all. Imagine then meeting someone who has no interest in your performance. Someone who is simply curious about who you really are. That does something profound. When people feel genuinely accepted without conditions, something in the body and mind begins to settle. The walls come down slowly. And this is not about stopping growth. Good love always inspires growth. But there is a real difference between growing because someone makes you feel capable and changing because you are terrified they will leave if you don't. Those are entirely different experiences living in the same body. This is part of why certain relationships with big age gaps can be so quietly powerful. The older person is often done trying to win races. He has had his victories and his failures, and has learned that perfection is exhausting. He is less concerned with proving his value and more concerned with protecting his peace. The younger person brings something equally important. It isn't just youth, it is curiosity. She asks questions he hasn't thought about in years. She notices small things that other people walk right past. She laughs because she wants to, not because the moment calls for it socially. She reminds him that life isn't only about discipline and achievement. It is also about wonder. People often misread this dynamic as one person giving and the other taking. But real relationships are an exchange. He offers steadiness. She offers freshness. He helps quiet her anxiety about the future. She helps him remember that the present is worth being in. Neither one is rescuing the other. They are simply helping each other see parts of themselves that were already there, just waiting to be recognized. There will be hard parts. There will be friends who don't understand, and family who ask uncomfortable questions, and strangers who feel entitled to an opinion about your life. At first, that judgment stings. It stings more when you are already uncertain about yourself. You begin to wonder if everyone else sees something you have missed. And doubt is clever because it starts borrowing other people's voices until you think those voices are your own thoughts. People tend to judge relationships that challenge what they believe because it creates discomfort in them. If someone has spent their whole life believing that love must follow a particular schedule and a particular structure, watching a happy couple that ignores that schedule quietly threatens the story they have been telling themselves about how the world works. The easiest way to resolve that discomfort is to decide the relationship is wrong. It isn't always malicious. It is often just self-protection. The question worth asking is not whether everyone approves. They won't. The quieter and more important question is this: when no one is watching, when the phones are off and the outside world is somewhere far away, how do the two of you actually make each other feel? Because that is where the relationship lives. Not in comments or opinions or approval, but in ordinary evenings and shared meals and long conversations after a difficult day. And in those quiet moments, a different kind of fear tends to surface. Not about the age gap itself, but about time. Many men won't say this out loud, but late at night they look at the person they love and wonder whether they will one day become a burden. Not because anything went wrong, but because loving someone makes you protective of them, even from yourself. One man told me that he wasn't afraid she would stop loving him. He was afraid that loving him would eventually become too much work for her. That isn't insecurity. That is honesty. Underneath the strength that most people present to the world is a hope that the person who truly knows them will still choose them when things get hard and ordinary and unglamorous. Women in these relationships often carry a different fear. While he worries about getting older, she worries that people assume her love isn't real. She notices the looks in public spaces. She hears the silence when she walks into a room. She wonders if anyone actually believes her. And it is exhausting to feel perpetually misunderstood by people who have never asked her a single question about her actual experience. These fears, left unspoken, are where many relationships begin to quietly unravel. Not because the love is gone, but because both people are hiding to protect each other. He doesn't mention his worry because he wants to seem strong. She doesn't bring up hers because she doesn't want him to feel guilty. So both of them smile and say they're fine, and a small, invisible distance opens up between them. Those unspoken things don't disappear. They accumulate and eventually come out sideways in arguments about things that aren't really the issue at all. Being honest doesn't have to be dramatic. It can begin with something as simple as saying, "I am afraid," and then saying the real thing out loud. When two people do that, they stop being on opposite sides of the problem. They become partners facing it together. That shift matters more than most people realize. Over time, if the relationship is real, the outside noise becomes easier to tune out. The couple builds a private world made of small rituals and shared references and moments that mean nothing to anyone else. Those things become anchors. And love, real, lasting love, doesn't feel like a constant romantic peak. Some days it is just two tired people being kind to each other. Picking up the heavy bag, remembering how someone takes their coffee, saying nothing because nothing needs to be said. Those small moments, repeated over years, are what actually build a life together. In the end, we were never really talking about age. We were talking about character, about curiosity and safety and respect. You can see an age gap the moment you look at two people. You cannot see whether they are honest with each other, whether they make space for each other to grow, or whether they choose each other again every single ordinary day. But those invisible things are what you will actually be living inside for the next 20 years. The real danger in any relationship is not the difference that the whole world can see. It is the distance that grows between two people quietly, invisibly, until one day it is simply too wide to cross. You can be the same age and be completely alone together together. You can be decades apart and feel more known than you have ever felt in your life. Good love doesn't ask you to pretend the problems don't exist. It just asks whether you are both willing to face them together with honesty and patience and a genuine desire to understand each other. Don't let a calendar make a decision that belongs to your character and your heart. Numbers can measure the space between two birthdays. They cannot measure how well two people know each other, how safe they make each other feel, or how willing they are to keep showing up. Sometimes the most extraordinary thing that can happen to a person is simply finding someone who makes them feel genuinely understood. And that, whatever the numbers say, is worth taking seriously.